My name is Isoke, and I am in Brooklyn, but I was born and raised in Brooklyn, specifically Flatbush, also known to many now as Prospect Lefferts Gardens, but dearly known as Flatbush. And I am in my 20s. I'm a yoga teacher, a Spanish instructor. I absolutely love rose tea and being out in the sun. And I'm really interested in oral history, ethnographic studies. I've completed my college degree. I love to learn, so I'm a learner. And I love to ask questions. I love to engage my curiosity about the world. So I did not go to school in Flatbush, though I will say that my first school is home. So I learn a lot and continue to learn a lot at home with my parents, my mother and my father, and my siblings. I went to school downtown Brooklyn, and that was a decision because my parents thought it would be, best to have in terms of access to resources, but that never stopped them from engaging our learning process growing up in Flatbush neighborhood. I would say going to school, my parents taking my siblings and then going to school with my sister, my brother, and then going to school by myself. So just those stages of learning to cross the street, being mindful of the cars during the rain. Some other memories include hanging out with my friends and just talking on the stoop, coming home late sometimes, walking around the neighborhood, running into folks. And at some point, going to school with my siblings or myself, and then going away to college and coming back and noticing all the differences. So that was a bit of mind shake, to say the least. But just seeing all the differences and just growing up in it. Yeah. Well, I will say that at some point it's like growing up here, playing on the block, playing double dutch, playing freeze tag with my friends, going over to my friends' houses. As the years progressed, the neighbors, it just felt less and less familiar in terms of the interpersonal relationships. So I didn't know my neighbors as well as I did before. Everyone was getting older, going away to school, and so those are some of the changes just in terms of who's moving in, who's moving out. And then also, I started to see a lot less Black people specifically on the block and a lot more white folks. So that was a shift. And I think all of Flatbush was seeing it in some way or another. But nevertheless, still fond memories. Oh, to live here has been joyful and so eye-opening. I think that's one of the reasons why I was so propelled to travel, because I can get on a dollar van or walk down the block and I'm hearing so many different accents, so many different languages, and smelling so many different foods. So by the time that I went to school and we're having potlucks, and my friends from Mexico or my friends from Belize were bringing different foods, but it always just felt so familiar. So growing up in Flatbush, I always felt a familiarity to the rest of the world. I always felt like if I wanted to go, I can. And I always felt like home wasn't so far away, even if I was on a different continent. So it was joyful, it is joyful, abundant, and full of gratitude. To someone that hasn't been to Flatbush, I'd be like, you haven't gone yet? You gotta go. Come over. I would say it's just, people also recognize Flatbush as Little Caribbean. And I think that's important because a lot of the people that live here have have some sort of migration from the Caribbean, whether that's first generation, whether that's they were sent here or they have family back home. So I would say like the same way that I experience it, and I haven't been to all parts of the Caribbean yet, but if you want to go to the country without stepping on a plane, come to Flatbush. Well, I say being born here. Being born here and my family living here. And though my mother shared that my father and her bought the house, at some point my father grew up on the block as well, and his father and aunts grew up on the block, and his grandparents migrated here from Barbados. So there's this consistent curiosity about their stories, about migration, about the shifts. So the shifts that I'm experiencing when I speak to my father, he can recall the experiences that the shifts that he was experiencing in terms of growing up in Flatbush and seeing the space change. So that my curiosity is really what inspires my navigation through this space. I'm between courageous and abundant, but I'm leaning towards abundant. And I would say that though there is a great need for more resources in this space, in this neighborhood, when I see people, when I talk to people, I'm like, wow, like the stories that we carry, the experiences that we have, and the hope that we have, I think is really awesome. How I would really want us to engage with abundance more is to pull more resources into the area. And I'm not just talking about Target and these big condos, but having more space for community garden, more workshops, and more access to the things that people are going outside of the community to get. So I remember another fond memory is leaving Flatbush to get organic foods, and now you have corner stores that are named organic foods. So I see the abundance of Flatbush, but I also recognize that there's a lot more work to do to activate the abundance that's possible. Well, I would say just communal folk and people that you can depend on, that hold you accountable, that want to know about your dreams and want to support you through that. I think we live in a society that tells you what to do, that says, okay, you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you work this many hours, you work this many years, and then you go on vacation if you make it there. And in the same way, if someone has a dream, it's like, make your dream too big that you'll never achieve it, as opposed to, yeah, you can achieve your dream. And I'm very fortunate and very grateful to have a family and have a community that sees me and that wants to know my dreams, that wants to know my goals, that guide me, that hold me accountable, that care for me. And I think everyone deserves that. I think everyone needs that. And of course, healthcare, and not just what the doctor's prescribing you, but what you need. Education, and not just you are able to go to a school, but you are learning, and the philosophy that you can learn anywhere. So education more outdoors, in the parks, traveling, which I think was very opening for me as a person and who I am. And again, just communal spirit. So that means getting to know your neighbors. That means building with each other and creating something that not just what your children and grandchildren want to do and can have for the future, but something that you can enjoy too. Because who doesn't want to enjoy their labor and not just the fruits of it? specific desire would be to really engage the abundance that we have, and to really take matters into our own hands. So that means getting more acquainted with the local laws and regulations. That means declaring the things that we want and desire, whether that's better education in terms of being able to travel, scholarship programs, and really being intentional about community. I think one great thing that has happened from being involved with the Flatbush Friendly Fridge is meeting my neighbors and being able to say that I'm having direct impact on my neighbors' lives. So one thing that kind of shook me when I came back from college was like, especially during the pandemic, was I'm living next to all these people, but I have no idea who they are. And is it enough to call us community if we just know so-and-so because we're passing them, rather than community because we know so-and-so, because we spoke to them, we speak to them, we engage with them, we invite them over, we're invited over. So my specific desires is to be more politically engaged in our own neighborhood, in this space, to create clear declarations of the things that we want, and to be more intentional about the intimacy of what it means to be community, and that means being communal. I feel most supported by community. I was gonna say my mom brags about me, about her children, but I think just knowing that when I leave the house, I'm a representation of my family, but also because of the work that my parents specifically have chartered, that people know me. So when I go to Band Dance Africa, or I even met somebody from Flatbush when I was in Cuba. So just knowing that, like, you know, the work is never so far, and because of the work that my family does, when I go places, I'm bound to meet somebody that knows me or knows of me. So I feel supported when they know whose daughter I am. Yeah, I mean, hi Mom. I've been a part of the Flatbush Friendly Fridge volunteer working group. The work that we do is not free, on our bodies, on our cars, on our spirits, and it's awesome work that we do. And we've been doing food distribution at Parkside and Rogers since last year. And that's grown from dumpster diving, from asking cafes for their leftovers at the end of the day, from talking to supermarket managers to get the food that's perfect but not desirable anymore. So the work that we do is a lot of work, and the work that we do is not free, and the work that we do is out of love, and the work that we do is also nourishing us, nourishing everyone. And I would also say that Flatbush has inspired my business. So I make body butters, I make stationery, so books and notepads and affirmation cards. And of course, in saying that, paying homage to my mother, I was inspired by her business. And she makes soaps, she makes body butters and all of that. So the work that I continue to do is very much inspired by Flatbush and very much inspired by my family.